This is sick.
Hopefully this doesn't fall off in the first 10, 15 seconds.
Look at it vibrating now. How much that camera cost? You don't want to know.
Well, the lens on it's $800. That's not mine. Howdy, howdy ho.
Brought to you by Hydro Flask.
Welcome back. No. Brought to you by no one, because no one's paying.
No product
us.
placement.
Nope, none of the product placements. Dude, you know how I always start this?
I do not.
Howdy, howdy ho. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, I like that. It's kind of like a catchphrase.
Yeah, it's my catchphrase.
It's lovely.
Welcome to World Yo. I got my guest, Mr. Mike Willis, on today. Want to say hello to the people?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello to the people. My name is Mike Willis. I was born in Los Angeles. Went to undergrad with your father at Point Loma Nazarene College. I went to graduate school and got a Ph.D. in chemistry at the University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado, which is where I bought this truck. We're in a 1995 Land Rover Defender 90 in Beluga Black.
Beluga Black.
So we're currently driving in Anza Borrego, which is very near Goat Canyon and Madero Palms.
I don't know if anyone knows what that means.
Yeah.
We're planning on doing a little off-road route while having a little talk.
Yes, and we're looking for a hidden campsite.
So we met because I know my dad because he's my dad, and my dad knows Mike because
we were roommates in college.
I grew up coming to see Mike and his family, and this truck was always the coolest part of the trip. Not Mike or his family. It was seeing this truck. But the reason I wanted to talk about the truck first is because I think it's such a personification thing of you.
Yeah,
because so he's added on a little things, but like meaningful things that have made the truck a little bit better.
I love fixing things.
Yeah,
it's my favorite thing, and I'm retired now, and all I do all day long is tinker and fix things.
What has been your biggest tinkering project?
I rebuilt the dash on this because a bunch of the electrical stuff corroded
after 20
and so
years.
It took like 2 weeks to rebuild everything.
And did you just eBay all the parts, or
no? They don't have parts. So I had to build some of the stuff. I had to build a circuit board.
Did you just YouTube it?
Combination of YouTube and just figured it out.
Did your tinkering and like building stuff, did that come from your childhood?
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad had a rule that I could use any of his tools as long as I put them back, which I did not do a very good job of.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat as you.
Yeah. We were rather poor, so we didn't have a lot of money, and I surfed and didn't live near the ocean, so I needed a car. So I bought an old car and was working on it constantly so that I could get to the ocean to surf.
So it was like the reward was if you could learn how to fix all of it, then
yeah.
you would be able to
well, I
surf.
had no option. I had to fix a car to go surf, and I had to surf. I was working on it, rebuilding motors, whatever it took to keep that car running, and it was a death trap.
That's badass.
I think it was like $700.
Why was it a death trap though?
It had a loose steering wheel.
Okay.
The seats weren't exactly anchored to the floor very well.
What do you mean by exactly?
Just with some loose bolts through sheet metal. Stuff now that I would never let my child do.
Yeah, that sounds, was that your engineering?
That was my early attempts at engineering. Very early. I think I started with a boogie board, and then I got a surfboard, and I was just hooked. And we would go to Santa Monica, which is terrible surfing, but we didn't know any better. And so we're like 12 to 14 years old, just learning. And we'd boogie board sometimes and surf sometimes.
And was that in the 30s or the 40s?
And then from then on, that's all I did was surf. I decided to go to my college based on the fact that it was directly on the cliffs overlooking the ocean in San Diego at Point Loma.
Well, were you looking into the education?
Not at all.
Educational.
Well, actually, right after high school, I moved out. We lived in Oceanside, right by the beach, in just this beat up little house. Me and my buddy Bruce.
Okay. Straight out of high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we saved up all our money, and we had 3 months of rent, and moved and lived right on the sand.
And how much did you surf at that point?
And we would surf 6 hours a day.
How many jobs did you have?
0.
What do your parents think about your tactics?
We had 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, and a small living area.
Okay.
It was maybe like 500 square feet, maybe 400 square feet.
But it's what you needed.
My brother was 21 then, so he bought me some beer, He bought me, I think, 14 cases of beer.
Which you didn't consume because you were under 21, right?
I did not consume at the time. I waited for the right moment.
The day I turned 21.
Yeah. So I drove in the Baja Bug, 18 years old, underage, with 14 cases of beer in a Volkswagen. So that meant every seat, it was like stacked.
Stacked to the brim.
And then it kept
Incognito.
It kept us busy for 3 months. The problem was my buddy was an alcoholic and I didn't know it. I wanted to get up and surf first light every day. And he would stay up drinking every night. So I'd go to bed and he'd stay up drinking and watching TV by himself. And I was like, dude, just go to bed. We're gonna surf tomorrow. It's gonna be sick. Let's do it. And he's like, oh, I'll come in a while. And he would stay up and he would just get smashed and then he would sleep till like 9.
Yeah, and you were already out there.
And then I realized we had pretty much a solid difference of how we wanted to live our lives.
And
we made it 3 months, and by the end we were completely hated each other.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
We were not gonna hang out.
I mean, I know that you were like, okay, what college should I go to? The one by the beach, but you still were like, I should go to college.
Well, what happened was I came home and I wasn't planning on going to college, and I went and I worked at the Pacific Stock Exchange, which is like Wall Street, but on the West Coast in downtown Los Angeles. And I was just the lowest level worker.
Yeah.
And there were guys with suits and, you know, people fancied up. And I realized I was pretty much going nowhere in life, and it was time to fix it. So I went to junior college for a year, and I went from, my high school GPA was a 2.37.
Because you didn't try?
I didn't try, I only surfed. So I went, and because I registered late, because I was a screw up, I screwed up everything back then. I registered late, and when you register late at junior college, you don't get to take the fun classes. I was sitting in chemistry lab and waiting for the teacher to start the class, and in walks this beautiful woman who was late, comes rushing in. There's only one seat available, and it's next to the long-haired surfer
140 pounds, soaking wet.
Yeah, nothing there. And so she sits next to me, and so she told me that she had to take this class and pass it in order to get into UCLA next year. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so over the course of the semester, I learned that she was a reigning Rose Princess for the Rose Parade. And I was, of course, very infatuated with her, and I realized that if I studied, I would know everything about what we were studying in class.
And you could help her out.
And pretty soon we were study partners.
There you go.
Became friends. That was the extent of it. But what I learned was that, geez, if you study, you're actually pretty smart and you can do pretty well. So I got straight A's.
Learned. Really?
My first time in college.
You just turned it around?
Just turned it around. I was like, wow. And I'm still surfing a lot, but I realized that I could balance school and surfing, get good grades, and then I went off to Point Loma. My parents are Nazarenes, so they were excited for me to go to
Point
church
Loma
school.
Nazarene Church School University.
Yes.
So you could be smart and surf at the same time.
Yeah, I was not as smart as well, I was smart. I just had to make up for screwing around in high school for so many years.
So you had to catch up.
I was still learning how to write and read and
in college,
all the simple stuff in college. So I was learning things like I before E except after C.
I remember that too.
In college.
Yes.
Not in high school like everyone else. That's what kept me busy, but after that I got good grades. I went to graduate school and really had fun going to grad school and focusing on chemistry.
But why chemistry?
So I didn't know I was smart, but I was smart. And
when did you figure out that you were smart?
When I started figuring out complex concepts in chemistry. And what I realized that chemistry was so hard that it kept me interested. And so I never lost, I was always just fascinated by it. And it scared me, so I paid attention, and I was good at it. And my professors, because I was really good at working with my hands, I could work on things in the lab. And even though some of the other kids were maybe much more book smart than I was really good with my hands. I could make anything work.
Well, here we are.
And so,
this
yeah, I would build
setup.
little apparatus like that so that I could do my experiments. And I was
like that.
very successful in grad school as a chemist, and it just really worked out.
Wow. So would you recommend to people that are like, I don't know what to do? Like, because you probably didn't really know what you wanted, right?
No.
And then, but you found something hard that scared you and then pursued it, and then you ended up really
That's what I always tell people. Just find something hard, even if you don't do it, you'll have that as a fallback.
Yeah. When did you get a job? Did you ever get a job? Seems like you've never had a job.
I wrote a patent my last year of graduate school, and it was purchased by a company called Nexigen.
Okay.
And
what was the patent?
The patent was for something called photo selects that I invented. I learned about something one of the guys I played basketball with was doing, and I said, man, I could make my research work with your research, and we could actually make products. And so I wrote this patent, and the company bought the patent and bought me.
Was that in the contract?
And so before I even had a doctorate, they hired me to work there, and then I could write my doctorate at night with my advisor's help. So I was really lucky.
Wow.
Because I got out of grad school in 4 years instead of a lot longer.
How much longer is it normally?
Some people can go 7 years.
Really?
Depending on how successful your project is. And so I was, like I said, I was always really good at research, and so my research was
dialed
successful, and then the patent was really good.
Okay.
So I went to work for a company called Nexigen, and they went public about 6 months after I joined them, and it was the luckiest thing that could have ever happened.
So they bought your patent, and then they went public, and I assume the stock that you had did decently well.
Did decently well.
Okay. So then you were pretty chilling right after school then.
So at that point, within a couple of years, like 4 years there, I was, I wasn't rich. Well, certainly rich compared to how I was raised.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to worry so much about money, and from that point, I always got to work just for fun.
Okay. So literally, 4 years after you got your doctorate, it was just for fun.
Then I could just enjoy.
Wow.
And then I went to Sequinome, and crazily, they IPO'd right afterwards.
Sequinome is the other company?
It's the second company I went to.
So what were you even doing as like a chemist?
At Nexigen, I was the associate director of chemistry.
And what is that like daily job? Like give me a 9 to 5.
I managed research projects. At Nexigen, I managed research projects and 12 researchers.
Okay. And then what are they researching?
At that time, we were looking for drugs. We worked on 2 drugs that were big hits. One was for macular degeneration, which is a disease that older people get in their eyes so that they can't see peripherally. Peripherally.
There you go.
Thank you.
So, and how old were you in these like administrative, like pretty higher positions?
I started when I was 29. And by the time I was 35, I was director of chemistry.
And then did you have people that were older than you that were under you?
Yes.
Pause. Okay.
Yeah. I had older people and younger people that were working for me.
And what was it like being in like a leadership position above someone who's older than you?
It wasn't hard for me.
Okay.
I
were you like a natural
it.
leader?
I have natural, leadership skills that I didn't know about until I was, but they tended to, if there were people that had difficulty in their working environment, they would transfer them into my group, and we'd find a way to figure them out. And I've always thought that everyone has gifts, and my job as a boss is to find them, or as a leader, is to find their gifts and help them be successful.
And what was your best tactic to like help find those gifts? To help people find their gifts?
Honest feedback.
Okay.
Telling people, you know what, you're great at this and you're not so great at this, so we're going to move you into this area. To take somebody who really wanted to be a great researcher but didn't have the hands to do it and turn them into a writer.
Yeah.
and then having them find that actually they loved it. But a lot of times it takes honest feedback to tell them, look, I know that you always thought that this was what you wanted to do, but you're not as successful as you could be if you were doing something differently.
Yeah.
Is there any chance you'd be interested in taking this position? And so sometimes they would take it reluctantly and then find out that they really enjoyed doing it, and other times it wouldn't work out. But I think always being honest about people's skill sets has helped me in my leadership positions.
And what were some of the other things that like you came across that you found were pretty successful in helping other people find their?
I always thought it was fun to go to work every day.
Okay.
And so I think that can be infectious.
Yeah.
And we used to joke and say, look, if you don't like doing research, go into sales. At least you'll make more money.
Yeah.
Research is fun. It's like tinkering in your garage all day. And you got to play with $1 million machines and work on complex problems that sometimes work and sometimes don't, but it's always exciting.
Yeah. And how often would you find, I guess just throughout your career in general, that people were working, that you worked with actually enjoyed what they were doing versus like, oh, I'm good at this, or oh, I can make money and I can like just go into it just to do it, you know?
I was lucky in that my group, we generally had people who just liked working.
Yeah.
And because of the honest feedback and because work was enjoyable, you know, we didn't have a lot of politics or problems with politics, that people enjoyed coming to work. It might be interesting if you interviewed those people. They said, yeah, that's not at all true.
And hear what they think maybe.
But I'm still friends with people that I worked with 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we had a great time together, and we're still friends.
And were those bonds just built through like the hardship of like being in the lab all day trying to like figure something out, or is
yeah,
that
but it
just,
never
like,
felt like hardship. It was always
interest?
a fun activity that we were doing together with a group, and
Yeah.
we'd go to lunch together, and we'd celebrate birthdays together, and made a team that was fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
That was still very successful, but didn't put money and success as the highest thing. Enjoyment of your job, to me, has always been the most important thing.
But I feel like that would, well, the enjoyment of the job leads to quality work, which leads to the money and the success, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's the ultimate formula.
Yeah. And so that's what I always thought was my job, was to continue to make it enjoyable.
So you just kind of went more and more administrative, it sounds like.
Yes.
And did you like that versus the hands-on stuff that it seems like you were originally interested in?
I would say now that I'm older and smarter, I think that was a mistake. I went for money and position.
Okay.
And the jobs became less fun. It was always most fun when I was directly connected to the research.
Okay. And you went for money and position as just like,
It was about making bigger decisions.
Okay, got it.
And then I went and I worked for a private company that was a part of a large Japanese conglomerate.
Wow. Okay.
And I had a really good time there. We made automation that did chemistry. And so
Were those
robots
Yeah.
that do the mixing of chemicals in very repetitive ways.
So wait, as like a robotics chemist, how much are you like building the machines versus just like, oh, hey engineers, this is what we need to build the machines to do?
I was the guy that said, hey engineers, this is what we need to build the machines to do.
Okay.
And develop the vision of what we could make in robotics that could do chemistry.
Okay. And did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
You loved it. Why did you love it?
I was the president of the company and
Of the company?
of our division.
Yeah. Okay.
And so with the exception of answering to the main company, I
were
could
the
decide
man.
what products we made, the direction of the company, and we had a great team, and we really enjoyed making robots.
That's sick. And so was that your first kind of administrative position that you actually like enjoyed? Woo!
Yes, I really enjoyed that.
Okay. And what was the big difference? Just because you had no one to answer to and you could kind of make your own decisions?
I think because it was my own show, I could set the culture.
Okay.
And so the culture
The
where
culture. Okay.
you were very honest with people. We didn't have politics. We didn't allow politics. We expected people to live balanced lives and not just work.
Yeah. What positivity? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but like what were you promoting? Like, why would you promote that? Because I mean, a lot of companies would just be like, work as much as you can always.
Right.
But when you get like did you find that you get diminishing returns from your employees where they'd just like?
No.
Okay.
They loved working, and they liked working hard when they were there, because when they were off, they didn't focus on work. They weren't worried about their jobs.
Okay.
And they enjoyed what they were doing and enjoyed what they were making.
Yeah.
And enjoyed working in the team. It was really great for 8 years, and at the end of 8 years, we stopped. We just weren't making enough money. There was too much competition for us, and they decided to cut our staff, and that's the point that I decided to leave.
And why retire and not go work for a different company at that point?
I felt like I was getting older, and I wanted to surf more before I lost the ability to surf competitively.
Okay. Competitively?
Not in like professional, but being able to compete with other surfers for waves and just surfing at a high level.
Speaking of surfing at a high level, when did you kind of get into, so you moved it back to San Diego, and then that's when you kind of reignited your, are we stopping again?
Yeah, in 2000 we moved back to San Diego.
Okay.
And bought our house in La Jolla in 2000.
Okay. And then were you just like game on surf-wise?
Yeah, from then on I pretty much have surfed every day.
Every day?
If there were waves and I wasn't injured or sick or too busy with something, I was surfing.
Yeah.
So that probably equates to 6 days a week for probably 15 years.
Wow.
I got much better at surfing big waves. I got much better at tube riding than when I was younger.
Okay.
And that's when I started traveling to Fiji and Samoa and destination surfing.
And so what were some of the like bigger waves you surfed in La Jolla, but also like throughout the world? And like, when did you kind of peak as far as like doing that, the big wave surfing stuff?
In my early 40s, I could surf not huge waves, but I would surf big tabarua, big blacks.
How big?
Double, triple overhead.
Okay, so not big.
Yeah. Waves, nothing like the guys are surfing now.
Yeah.
And all the way until I think I was 44 when we surfed Big Wednesday at Blacks, and we had waves that had 25-foot faces on them, and I nearly died. I had a 2-wave hold down.
Really?
On a what's called a canyon set.
So wait, how many people were out, and what was like the vibe, and what did you want to do? Because you had kids at that point, right?
I had kids. I had young kids. I wanted to go surf and catch some big waves, and there was a yellow helicopter taking pictures of people, and I was trying to catch a wave kind of on the inside a little bit to get filmed by the helicopter.
Because you want the shot.
And then a canyon set came in, and I made it right to it, probably 10 feet before it broke, and it landed on my head, pushed me down deep. Then I went over the falls.
Sounds fun.
And then down deep, and then I was swimming up, trying to get back up to the surface. And just as I started to see light again, just about to make it to the surface, I felt myself go over the falls on the second wave.
Okay.
And I had a pretty good breath, so I was doing okay and I was in good shape. But by the time I made it up from that second wave, I was seeing stars.
Really?
And it scared me.
How long were you under, you think?
No, probably only 30 to 40 seconds, but I didn't get a deep breath. It wasn't like I was planning on it. So it scared me enough that I realized I could have died that day, and that maybe big waves are better for people that are in their 20s and 30s and not in their 40s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I think everyone kind of reaches their I don't even know if it's your limit, but it's kind of just like, you know what, like, this is all fun, but I don't want to die.
Yeah, it's not worthy of dying from.
Yeah. So you kind of just stopped big wave surfing, and then, well, then ultimately you retired. And then what was that landscape like for you, as far as like you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I don't have to go to work? Like, what were your goals for retirement?
I wanted to build furniture, surf,
Yeah.
travel. Because my daughter lives in Switzerland, I wanted to go there, spend time with her. But the main thing that I enjoy now is I can take my time and do things slowly and correctly. My whole life I was, working 8-10 hours a day and then come home and work on something, and I would rush it and take shortcuts. And now I can just, if it gets frustrating, I can just walk away.
Take the time.
Come back the next day and do it right.
How did that improve your life and like your mental and your happiness?
I think it greatly improves my happiness, because there's just anytime you do something right, it feels good.
Yeah. So recently though, you got a consulting job, right?
Yes.
And how has the business space changed with like the adding of like technology and stuff since is it fairly similar, or are there things that are completely different, or?
It's fairly similar, but what I'm doing now as a consultant is going back to the lab and working in research.
Really?
And it's just been a lot of fun.
Even now?
And so I'm working with
Sick.
young people in their 20s and teaching them some analytical techniques that I've learned over the years to help them use their robots more effectively. So I've been doing that and just having a great time doing it.
Yeah. Do you ever want to start your own business?
No.
No?
No.
What was the lack of desire to do that?
I think when I was in my 40s, I would have loved to. But
would that
now,
have been like a chemical,
I
chemistry?
realize that what I want to do is be in the lab, not be a boss.
Okay.
I want to go back to my roots of working on molecules and robots and
Stuff like that.
That's exciting, and you get real fun short-term goals of solving a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just don't have as much interest in ruling the world anymore. I want to enjoy it.
I like that. That's a good quote.
Thanks. Do you have to? You'll have a little editing.
A little bit.
I'm worried about that.
Why? Dude, that's a job, dude. That's what I've realized, is that editing is the job.
Is most of the work.
Which is unfortunate, because I like editing. I don't like editing for like 12 hours.
Yeah.
But it's all good, because the way I did it was theoretically, the podcast like I did with Emma, right?
Yeah.
It was unedited, didn't touch it. And what I would do is I'd make an intro, be like, hi, this is Emma. This is what you're going to learn about Emma and what you're going to learn by listening to this podcast. Mm-hmm. And then I'd literally take the Zoom call, plop it in, and then add an outro, and that would be like the thing.
Okay.
And there was no besides me and what I was saying and what Emma was saying, there was no unique to Max.
Right.
The format wasn't unique. There's people that talk to interesting people that have been doing it for decades longer than me and have better talent and stuff like that. So I needed to figure out what can I do in the space that'll be unique and interesting.
Yeah.
And different.
Do you ever listen to This American Life with Terry Gross?
I've heard it. Yeah.
I think she's the best interviewer.
Yeah.
And she gets people to talk about kind of their thing, but she just asks really good leading questions. So it might be fun to check her out.
What do you think makes her leading questions good?
Well, she does her research ahead of time.
Yes.
Because a lot of times she's talking to actors or actresses or famous people or, Obama.
Podcasts are a lot easier when you can do that.
Yeah.
Like I've had people I can research beforehand.
Uh-huh.
And it's way easier to prepare because you can. Oh yeah. Woo-brah! Oh, heated.
Yeah, I don't have a big Google
search.
Yeah.
It's okay though.
All right, here's where it got a little nutty.
Are we gonna get nutty on the way down?
Not only are we gonna get nutty, we're gonna drop in the low and just climb up it.
Oh, dude. the high RPMs, freaking, oh gosh. Oh yeah. Ripping. Let's go. Dude. That's baller. What gear is that?
That is low gear.
Low gear.
That was first gear low, and this thing crawls.
Oh,
that was nice.
She rips.
And we got it on film.
What made the podcasts that you like? What makes them good?
Podcasts that I like.
Yeah.
Interesting people with an interesting story.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be fun just because it's kind of different.
Yeah.
It's comedians in cars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm trying to.
We should go get coffee now.
Dude, yeah, we should. That's the only thing we're missing. And I'm not funny. Mike's funny, but yeah, actually, it is literally that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I am a poser and I'm not unique.
No, this was our unique idea because we're going off-roading.
Yeah.
I've never seen an off-roading podcast, have you?
I don't think so.
I'm sure it's out there, but we invented it without finding one first.
Boom. Dude, it might be out there. Who knows?
Yeah.
I did a podcast in a boat yesterday, a podcast in a truck today, and then on Sunday I'm doing a podcast in a golf cart.
Now you got to do a podcast in an airplane.
And then I'm doing a podcast. Dude, I want to do a scuba diving podcast.
It's a little hard to talk.
No, but they have the radio communication ones.
Yes.
Right?
Where your face is free.
I need a bigger budget. But
yeah.
That's on the list. Ping pong podcast.
Ping pong podcast.
Darts podcast.
You could come and
chess podcast. Surfing podcast.
When Emma comes back to town and we restart the Beer Olympics.
Oh, Beer Olympics podcast.
Beer Olympics podcast.
Like my big thing right now is like, I think I have the ideas and the filming. It's just the interviewing.
Yeah.
And especially like, it's way harder to interview when you're like not just sitting at a table only thinking about your thoughts.
Yeah.
Like there's like other things going on, you know?
Like as long as I'm driving and making sure I don't run into anything.
Yeah.
I don't think about, this is the natural me.
Yeah.
I'm not having to sit and think about what to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm distracted.
The thing that I'm trying to learn is the process of like, you have to learn how to listen and not learn how to, well, you have to learn how to listen and not just hear like a thing that the person says that is like a talking subject and then focus on what you're gonna ask.
Right.
It's like very weird.
And you have to direct things. I'll get off track.
Yeah.
So you have to direct it. But that's the beauty of editing. All great movies are great edited.
I know. And that's why I was like, I probably should have an edit because that's what makes it good and unique. But it also is like how you like shape the story.
Yeah.
I just don't like being the person who's deciding how people view my guest because I get to choose what is said and not said. Yeah. But I think by like I could send it to them first or something and it would be fine.
No, I would say like I give you full editing rights and potential. I don't think there's anything in here that I would be ashamed to have somebody hear me say.
You sure about that?
Underage with 14 cases of beer in a Volkswagen. I was sure.
Yes.
So that if you edit it in any way, I think it would just be taking out things to make the content interesting.
But the cool thing is that this will be on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the visual's cool, but the it'll still be like on Spotify as like a podcast.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Who is your average market?
Ooh, younger people for sure. Just because it's honestly, so you were talking about how it's important to talk to, like be able to speak to all generations.
Yeah.
And I really struggle with that because I think a lot of the best podcasts can speak to most age groups.
I think if you asked difficult questions.
Yeah.
But you might have to build editing in.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be like, wait, no. I mean, I do this all the time where I'll say something and they'll be like, actually, no, that's not what I really want to say. What I really want to say is this. 14 cases of beer.
Yeah.
You know, and like if you were to ask me, you know, what is it about your wife or you know, that makes you love her? Or what is it about your wife that makes it so you stay together all these years?
Yeah.
Those are hard questions. But I think it's important for anyone to hear, like, how, from people who have made a marriage work, how do you do that? Because it's not always easy.
How have you made your marriage work?
Communication, a lot of love, therapy.
Therapy. I think so I know people whose parents don't go to therapy because I don't know the reasons why, but how did you ultimately go to therapy and like see that as a healthy thing rather than like this could be a negative thing because it would be like our relationship is falling apart.
That's kind of like doing mediation before the divorce.
Okay.
Is you sit there and you talk about, well, what is it that is important to you, or what is it that you want out of this relationship?
Yeah.
What scares you? What makes you happy? And to have a third party person in there helping guide you, they don't have any skin in the game. They just want to see success. They want to figure out, you're obviously together for a reason. So how do you solve some of the difficulties, like a difference in how to raise children?
Yeah. Was that one of your biggest struggles?
At times it could be that we had a different approach on how we wanted to raise our kids.
Okay. And what were the different approaches?
I would say sometimes I'm tougher.
Okay.
And have high expectations. But then over time, I've gotten better about that.
Yeah.
I've always been like, oh, the kids have to have STEM jobs. They have to be this, they have to. Well, it's perfectly okay to have a job in the arts if you're happy, if you love it, if it's your passion.
Yeah.
Then you should be in the arts. And I had to learn that because I thought, well, what if you can't make money? Well, money's not the most important thing.
When did you learn that?
Oh, God, not till probably my 50s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And it's funny because people say that all the time. Like, money's not the most important thing, but then they never live the actual, like, manifestation of that, you know what I mean?
Right. And it's the thing is, it's easy to say that once you have money. So
there you go.
who are you to say that you have money? Go ahead and give it all away and see how you feel.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd be willing to do that, because what I love about money is it gives me time to think, and it gives me time to be a better friend to people, like to make time for people, like what we're doing today.
Yeah.
If I had a job, I couldn't spend a whole Friday just hanging out with a friend.
Yeah.
Goofing around, building things. So that, I think, is, when you were asking me earlier about what is it that I like about being retired, is going over to somebody's house and spending 2 days building a deck.
And just being able to do that.
And then, and tell them, don't give me money, I just work for wine, give me a bottle of wine. And then have somebody give you a really great bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But the joy is in spending time building something with somebody who maybe isn't good at building, and you get to work with them and teach them a little bit and work together, and it's a great thing to do for a friend, or for the old man that lives down the street. I built wheelchair ramps for my neighbor because I have the time.
Yeah.
It made me happy to do it, and it helped him get his wife in and out of the house. So those are some of the fun things you get to do when you're retired, because you don't have to worry about wasting time, when in fact it's not a waste of time. It's the best use of your time.
Wow.
I think.
So when did you like really start finding value in acts of kindness once you retired for other people, and that made you happier?
I got better at it, and I certainly realized when I was in my career I was terrible at it. I was very selfish. And I would spend time with my family, of course, but I was selfish with my time. And now that I have time, it's the one thing I love to give to people.
It's like, time.
My wife likes to camp. I don't necessarily love to camp, but since she likes to camp, we can go camp now. There's tons of time to go camp. And it's actually really fun.
Yeah. So you just giving people time.
Giving people time.
The best thing you can do.
Yeah. And cooking, that's giving people time. Making something nice for somebody else, or
Nice bottles of wine.
Yeah, tonight my mom's coming over.
Yeah.
And one day a week, we play cards with my mom, and she loves it, makes her happy. And we all have a great time, but we never thought about doing that when we had careers.
Yeah.
Or when I had a career.
Because you're too busy.
We were too busy. And the limited time that you had that was free, you felt like you had to do something, work out, do something for yourself.
Yeah.
As opposed to giving of yourself.
And how much more value to life did you get when you started like giving up yourself? And how much did you start realizing like, oh, this is what I should be doing?
Once you start doing it and you realize that it's fun, it's so worthwhile.
Yeah.
But you have to retrain yourself that helping other people is a valuable use of time, not otherwise.
Yeah. Wow. Dude, I'm definitely getting a farmer tan.